Week 12 now in the NFL. It's Thanksgiving week. Always a great time for football. Games a little spread out, of course, with 3 of them coming on Thursday, so plenty of opportunity. We're coming off a nice Week 11 clean sweep, won all 3 of our bets, so starting to see things well now as we head down the home stretch of the regular season. I'll be involved in 3 games again here in this Week 12. Let's go through them now quickly. Starting with the first of 3 games on Thursday, I'm talking about the Minnesota Vikings going on the road to face their division rival, Detroit Lions. Detroit, a 2.5-point favorite at Betsafe, 43 the total in this game. This is a huge game in the NFC North. Both these teams currently sitting at 6-4. And we just saw this game 2 weeks ago in Minnesota, the Lions coming away with an overtime win. But if you didn't see that game, you might have forgot, the Vikings really controlled that game. They outgained Detroit. They were leading in the fourth quarter. If it hadn't been for their kicking game, which has been a sore spot all season, Blair Walsh, he missed an extra point and then missed a fourth quarter field goal. Matt Prater, Detroit's kicker, then came in and kicked a 58-yarder as time expired in regulation to send the game into overtime. Detroit then went down first possession in overtime and won the ball game. Blair Walsh, by the way, Minnesota's kicker, has since been cut. But the Vikings outgained the Lions. They frustrated Matt Stafford, held him to just 219 passing yards on 36 attempts. Of course, that shouldn't be surprising. This Minnesota defense is just great. Second in the league in points allowed, third in yards allowed. Another aspect of that game that shouldn't be surprising is that Detroit was in trouble trailing in the fourth quarter and somehow managed to pull a rabbit out of the hat and came away with a win. That's really been the story of this Lions season. 6-4, they've won 5 out of their last 6, but get this, they have trailed in the fourth quarter of every game they've played this year. In all 10 games, they have trailed at some point in the fourth quarter. That is just incredible. And it makes you wonder, is this team for real, or is this sort of a paper tiger that is just about to collapse? Matt Stafford is certainly playing the best football of his career, but this Detroit offense, not an elite unit by any means, and the same can be said for the defense. Minnesota, on the other hand, as we mentioned, they do have an elite defense. And something that I think hasn't been talked about over these past few weeks, probably because the Vikings had been on a losing streak until they snapped it by beating the Arizona Cardinals last week. But quietly, Sam Bradford beginning to find his footing, I believe, in Minnesota, developing a nice rapport with receivers Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. And I think Bradford's going to find some success against the Lions here. Wouldn't surprise me if he outplayed Matt Stafford in this game, because, of course, Stafford will be going up against that fearsome Minnesota defense. I think the Vikings are a better team than the Lions. I think they pay them back for stealing one, for the Lions stealing one 2 weeks ago, and I think Minnesota comes away with a win here. I like them as a 2.5-point dog. Moving on now to Sunday's action. What about the Atlanta Falcons hosting the Arizona Cardinals? Atlanta, a 4-point favorite at Betsafe, 50.5 the total here. Now, Arizona 4-5-1, Atlanta 6-4, but the general narrative is that things are just collapsing in Arizona. Cardinals lost on the road to Minnesota last week. Tough loss, a 6-point loss. You might have heard afterwards Bruce Arians admitted to the hospital with chest pains, apparently. We hope he's all right. We have heard that he is going to coach in Week 12. Who knows if it's related to the game, but of course that's the angle that the media is taking and kind of running with it, saying, the Cardinals' struggles are even causing Arians to have heart problems. Look, I think Arizona problems might be a little bit overblown here. You look at this team, number 1 in the NFL in total defense. They're allowing just 281 yards per game. Also number 1 in passing defense, which is going to be critical here as they face the Atlanta Falcons. Even their offense, Carson Palmer and this offense, they've taken so much heat. Statistically, they're 9th in the NFL in total offense. Yes, Palmer is not having quite as big a season as he did last year, but these Cardinals have found some real balance now. David Johnson at running back having a huge year. I just don't think everything is quite as bad as people are making it out to be in Arizona. And you look at these Atlanta Falcons, conversely, I think there are signs the Falcons might be beginning their late season crumble. They're coming off a bye, but they lost their last game 24-15 to the Philadelphia Eagles. They're now just 1-3 against the spread in their last 4. And I know this game is in Atlanta, but the Falcons have been a bad bet at home lately. 2-8 against the number in their last 10 home games. Now, the problem for Atlanta, stop me if you've heard this before, the defense. They are really bad again on the defensive side of the ball. I know, look, Dan Quinn, their head coach, supposed to be a defensive guy. He's supposed to fix this at some point. Obviously, it has not happened yet. The Falcons, 27th in the NFL in total defense, 29th against the pass, also 29th in points allowed. They're allowing 28.3 points per game. The only three teams in the NFL, only the Saints, the Browns, and the San Francisco 49ers, the only three teams allowing more points than the Atlanta Falcons. So look, Arizona is going to be able to go up and down the field in this game. They're going to be able to put up some points. We know the Falcons can score. They lead the NFL in points scored. But as we mentioned, Arizona, number one in the league in total defense, number one in passing defense. I really feel like this game is a toss-up, which means I think the Cardinals are real value as a 4-point dog. I am on that side. Arizona +4, my recommendation there. Moving on now, my final play of this Week 12. What about the New York Giants going on the road to face the Cleveland Browns? Giants, a 7-point favorite at Betsafe, 44.5 the total here. Now, of course, the Browns are winless. Everybody wondering now, are they going to go 0-16? A lot of places offering props for that type of thing. Look, I'd like to turn the focus for just a second to the New York Giants. The Giants at 7-3. I won't say they're the worst 7-3 team in the NFL, but look, you look at what they've done here lately. Yes, they've won 5 games in a row. 4 of those games did come at home. None of those 5 games, none of those 5 wins were against teams that currently have winning records, and all 5 of those wins came by 7 points or fewer. So again, they've won 5 straight games, but 4 of those 5 wins have come at home. The other one was at a neutral site in London. All 5 wins have been by 7 points or fewer, and none of the 5 teams they beat currently have a winning record. So now they go on the road to face the Cleveland Browns as a 7-point favorite, and guess what? After Cody Kessler suffered a concussion, finally Hugh Jackson forced to turn back to Josh McCown, who has been the best option at quarterback for the Browns all season. I mean, there's just no disputing it. Anybody with eyes can see that clearly this Cleveland offense is totally different when McCown is under center. He's really only had 2 games, 2 full games that he's been able to play this season. Week 2 against Baltimore, he threw for 260 yards. Week 8 against the New York Jets, he threw for 341 yards. He now has a full complement of weapons. Terrell Pryor, a legit number 1 wideout. This guy is a problem for opposing defenses. Corey Coleman now healthy. I think we're going to see something from the Cleveland Browns offense in this game. And you know, the Giants, statistically, I know they're 7-3, but very mediocre. 16th in the NFL in total defense, 20th in total offense. The Browns, I know they haven't been great defensively this year, but they showed last week they're still fighting on that side of the ball. They held Pittsburgh just 313 total yards. Ben Roethlisberger throwing for just 167 yards in that game. I think Cleveland has a chance to win this ball game. I really do. And based on what we've seen from the Giants over the past few weeks, I don't know why anybody would think they were going to go on the road and win this game by double digits. I don't think it's going to happen. If the Giants win, I think it's going to be a narrow win, which means I like Cleveland +7 here. There you have it. Those are my 3 recommendations for this Week 12. I like the Minnesota Vikings +2.5 on the road in Detroit. I like Arizona +4 against the Atlanta Falcons. And I like the Cleveland Browns as a 7-point home dog against the New York Giants. I wish you best of luck in whatever you decide to do in this Week 12, just so long as your interests don't conflict with my interests. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.